Hi, my name's Jacqueline Stevens, and I'm here today to talk to you about the information seeking behavior of teenagers. That is the user group I chose for the class LIS 508. There's a couple things I want to go over before we even get into the information itself. I'm going to be going over 5 key takeaways that I have discovered thus far, going over the research. But before we even go into that, I just want to talk about how teenagers on a whole are a very big group, right? Even when we're talking about the American teenager, we are talking about a very diverse group of kids. We're talking about ages groups from 13 to 19, and we're talking about different social economical backgrounds. We're talking different ethnic backgrounds. Like I said, there's a lot of diverse factors at play, but at the end of the day, teenagers are teenagers. So there's a couple things I want you to keep in mind when I go over my 5 things. The first is that these students are coming in with prior knowledge. They have already gone through school. They have some preconceived notions from family members and friends, and they come packing the knowledge already. They are also very strongly opinionated, right? We all know teenagers and they are locked into their belief systems. And the last thing is the cognitive development of their brain. So their brains are still developing at this age and they're developing at different levels. So kids are not going to be on the same cognitive level as each other. So those are just a couple things to keep in mind as we go through the 5 things. The first place I want to start is time. Teenagers don't want to waste time on the research. So they want it fast, they want it easy, the quickest way they're going to get there. And that leads them into not the best sources, which brings me to my next. All the wrong sources. So they would rather go to google.com and they have made Googling a verb and research it there. They're not really looking at what the sources provide, the reliability. There is some discussion as to whether this is actually them not knowing their information literacy or a fact of just sheer, I think I got good enough information to get through. So they're not digging deeper. They would rather look at Google than go to a database. In addition to Google, they like to use people as a source, whether it be their peers, whether it be on social media with strangers, whether it be their family and friends. They'd rather go seek someone that they see as being an authoritative source because they're an adult versus actually going and digging deeper and researching in textbooks and journals and databases. When they are using those online sources and they're going to Google, or even when they are going to databases, they tend to do the copy paste method, which means they're just taking the information and copying over to try to meet minimum requirements versus actually comprehending and understanding the information because it's so easy to access. They're just taking it and they're sticking it in. And this is actually leading to problems with things like plagiarism. Lastly, we're going to talk about emotions. No big surprise that teenagers are emotional creatures, right? But the thing is, their emotions actually affect their information seeking behavior, whether it comes down to how they think they're going to be perceived in their social circle, to just the frustration and emotions that happen when they are seeking behavior. Emotions play a major role, which is going to bring us to our next. It's no surprise with teenagers that I'm looking at Colthouse Model, because not only do they look at the physical and the actual seeking, but the cognitive reasoning, and on top of that, the emotion, the actual affect that goes along with it. Because teenagers are so emotional, it was a natural choice to look at this model when dealing with teenagers. Lastly, we're looking at Durban's sense-making theory, the idea that you are bridging your gaps in information by seeking knowledge. So taking what you have prior knowledge-wise and getting to the goal of what you want to discover and bridging that knowledge gap.